Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Authentic Online Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Ruthie Gray. If you're a fellow Jesus gal who is in empty nest and you're an entrepreneur or creative, you're invited to my empty nest retreat in the mountains of wild, wonderful West Virginia. It's called the Next Steps Retreat. It's September 18th through 21st at the Lodge on the campus of Appalachian Bible College in Bradley, West Virginia. You will receive coaching and next steps guidance with plenty of free time for fun, relaxation, and the important stuff, community and organic conversation. This is a work rest retreat. At the link in the show notes or go to ruthiegray.com/retreat. If you're a kingdom-minded empty nest entrepreneur and you are juggling all of the balls of serving your family and trying to balance and yet carve time for your God-given passions and desires, we will help you set your 100-day goal and keep you accountable through the fall so that you can get it done before the end of the year. The biggest struggle empty nest entrepreneurs have is task prioritization. What should I do next when everything seems to be the priority? This is what we will help you to figure out. If you have a goal for 2025 and you just can't seem to be making headway or it keeps being put on the back burner, please consider coming to this retreat. You're going to receive expert coaching with a community of like-minded sisters who will support you and uphold you to the completion of that goal. You're also going to cut tasks from your heavy load. Will help you determine which ones to cut. Retreat alumni Brenda McDermott says, "We were not all from the same niche, but we were all in the same life stage, and it was incredibly freeing to start from that point." Linda says, "I clarified where I was headed with my project and laid out specific action steps to get there." Last year at our September retreat, 11 attendees set their 100-day goals, most of whom accomplished those goals. Why? Because they cut unnecessary tasks that seemed important to them through the input and support of myself and our community, so that they could concentrate on the main goals and get those done before the end of the year. That's what we want to help you do. Please check out the link in the show notes and consider reserving your spot today. Today, we're discussing with my retreat staff a crucial topic that we all grapple with: how to prioritize responsibility. We're juggling the family, possible caregiving duties, grandkids, adult kids, all different kinds of dynamics. As your kids grow and move out, it can be a big adjustment, and many of you are finding yourselves with more time to focus on your business. But of course, it's not an overabundance of time, so you know you have to be focused and know where to start. That can be a challenge, and also knowing how far to go and juggling that with your family so that they know they're still your priority. So how do you determine which business responsibilities to tackle first? We're going to look at effective strategies from these 4 dynamic women that are on my staff that are empty nest entrepreneurs, as they share with us what they do to balance out serving their family with personal development and business tasks. These 4 ladies are brilliant, all in the over 60s crowd, of which I am now a member as of last fall. And you've heard them before on this podcast many times. And one of our most popular episodes that these ladies were on is episode 94, Empty Nest Case Studies, Finding New Purpose in the Digital Age. So I'm going to leave that link in the show notes because you'll want to go check that out. And then the subsequent episode is 95, which is Faith-Filled Leadership, Empowering Christian Women in Business and Social Media. But let me brag on these women a minute because you're going to need a little bit of background on why we're talking the way we're talking. So I want you to know when you hear each one who she is and what she does. First, Kathy is a blogger and online content creator at The Retired Empty Nester, where she teaches the older empty nest crowd to stay busy through serving, learning, and having fun. Kathy also calls herself a boomerang empty nester. Do you know what that is? And has grandkids from ages 2 through high school. Pat, a podcast producer, is also a grandma who suddenly found herself as the sole breadwinner in the empty nest. So she discovered a way to do it, making her own career path in the podcast producing industry, and recently released her book, Rebuilding Your Life After a Gray Divorce. Brenda, a new skin product distributor, has a newly retired husband and splits her grandma time traveling to her high school granddaughter's volleyball games and babysitting her very young grandsons. Finally, Suzanne, a beauty guide with Lyme Life, is also a grandmother and is poised to step in as caregiver for her elderly in-laws. Each of these ladies set goals at the Next Step retreat after talking out their unique issues of balancing family life. From Brenda trying to balance her new skin business while building in more time with her newly retired husband, to Pat, who felt guilty saying no to babysitting her grandkids during her work from home hours. You're also going to hear about my life update in sandwich season and my new focus and website. So I can't wait to share that with you. When we start, you're going to hear it's just a natural conversation that we're having, just like girlfriends talking, which we are. And the question that I asked each one of them was, how do you balance family life and prioritize responsibility? Are you ready for this? Listen in.
Welcome to Authentic Online Marketing with Ruthie Gray. Growing awareness for your blog, podcast, book, or product involves more than dancing to reels and yelling, "Buy my thing." This show models quality over clamor so you can put your spin on your message and market in a way that feels authentic to you, because nobody wants to sound like an infomercial. And now, here's your host, Ruthie Gray.
I'm just going to ask you each this one question. How do you balance family life and prioritize responsibility, specifically the things that you do for your business or your creative entrepreneurishness?
The one thing in my business, or the one thing that I do overall that feeds my soul, is writing my newsletter every week. And I have set aside Tuesday for that. And invariably, my younger daughter will drop somebody off at school and want to stop by with the little one, which is fine. But I have learned to say, no, I can't do this. It's my newsletter day. And she's fine with this. She just doesn't keep up with my schedule. But before I would say, well, I mean, how much longer is he going to be little? How many more years do I have that he could stop by and see me? Because, I mean, I got all these big kids that go to school now. However, when I don't get to do my newsletter, when I don't have that creative outlet, it just has a big effect on my week. So that's how I've set that boundary. My kids are fine with it. I think we think sometimes, or maybe I had, that my kids will be mad, and they just aren't. You just got to tell them. And then by the same token, I don't expect my kids to drop everything when I'm available to do something.
I don't believe in balance anymore because I think it was too tempting for me to always feeling negative about myself because I was never in balance, right? So I really think it's a question of being intentional rather than balance. There are times when, yeah, the kids are, they need help or whatever, especially with babysitting. That's why I moved to Atlanta. I have to keep reminding myself to be by my family. But I always ask them first, like, if it's not a convenient time, can you get someone else? So I've really been better about my boundaries. Boundaries help with that, keeping balance. But I do, Kathy, I know that question about, they won't always be here asking or needing or whatever. Friday nights, I go to my daughter's house and I spend the night so that Saturday morning, she climbs into the bed with me with the baby. And it is the sweetest time. He's starting to crawl. So I already know those days are numbered. And so I'm really, really glad I started sleeping over on Friday nights because I almost didn't do it. So I'm intentional about that. I know I only have probably a couple more Fridays left before he will not be interested in coming to bed with us. But right now, it's the sweetest thing. So it goes back to being intentional and with the boundaries. Like I've told my kids, I don't expect them to keep up with it, but I told them in January, these are my work hours. I really prefer not to be bothered. But I mean, if there's, what was it when the kids were little, if somebody's bleeding, call me,
Yeah.
And I don't expect them to keep up with it. And they do ask me sometimes, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, I'm working then. Can you get someone else? And then if they can't, I will be flexible. That's how I kind of keep balance by just forgetting that there's going to be balance because sometimes you have to veer either way. So that's the answer to the question.
That's very wise. Okay, Brenda, catch us up. Where are you going? What are you doing?
We just are leaving New Orleans this morning and heading back to Houston. Our middle daughter and our son-in-law are going to go to the Houston rodeo tonight. So we're going to keep the little boys while they do that. And then we're going to stay for a couple of days there. But it was kind of hard to leave New Orleans because, oh my goodness, yesterday was a big volleyball day and Kenzie's team won every match. And so it was very exciting. And we had to leave today, but she's, continuing to play. So again, sandwich, like you said, because the grandkids, they're in totally different sports and totally different places in their lives. So it really does. It's like layers of the club sandwich. You're like, this layer and this layer and this layer have to get some attention for it to be a full.
Well, Brenda, with like Kenzie, I mean, you're like me. You can see the end of the line. Other grandkids are juniors. And you're thinking, how we're talking a year and a half.
No.
So, yeah, I get that.
And, I have to say, too, that has really been, it's really been different than I thought because it's almost like raising your own kids again letting your own kids go again in some ways because you can feel how fast this has gone as a grandmother, her whole life.
Faster than your kids.
Yeah. And it's like the end is near,
And Brenda and I aren't old enough to have grandchildren this old either.
But it is totally different physically and mentally and everything.
How do you balance all of this along with your business?
Well, the thing that has helped the most, when we were at the retreat, I told y'all this whole year has been kind of a retirement experiment. And how do you do life like this? We've got 2 jobs and designated work hours everywhere. So we've kind of figured it out. And the best thing was he did that whole Google Calendar thing for us. And so we have color coded. My stuff is one color and his is another color. And then our shared activities are, in yellow. We have birthdays on there and everything. So it's been really nice because I can say, I can put my Zooms on there and he knows I'm committed to be non-available during those hours. And then we have all of our haircuts on there. So that's how we kind of balance our actual time commitments. And as far as balancing having my business, it's the same way. We put those things and structured the day around commitments. And so that really helps. I feel a little bit freer to just sit down and watch a movie or go for a walk when it's not work time.
That is great. I think a lot of us could take away from.
You were like at the stage where, okay, like you might have had something planned, but Mike would want to do something and you felt bad saying, no, I don't want to do it. But now if everything's on the calendar, he doesn't even have to say, do you want to do this at this time? Because he can just see.
I also put together some spreadsheets and he's managing my product information and cost versus profit and all that stuff for me on spreadsheets.
That's
So,
awesome.
so that's really helped. I think those two things, the Google Calendar and then him entering into my business where he can kind of really feel like his talents are put to use and he's really helping me. And then it's a together project, when we do it that way.
Wow. You're right, Kathy. She's completely revamped that whole thing that we talked about at the retreat.
Problem solving.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Brenda, when you were just now talking about your husband, my daughter Lauren shared something with me she said the early use, I guess it's the Hebrew of help me, was if you ever did this in PE or it was an icebreaker or whatever, to have two people sit back to back and lock their arms and you have to push against each other to stand. That was the initial meaning of help me. You can't do it. One can't do it without the other. And I was like, it doesn't have to be insulting how sometimes it's perceived, it's necessary. And I love that image of like, you're pushing against each other, but it's for the goal is to rise up. That was good.
And listen, don't discount the blessing of having your husband being willing to enter in to what you're doing.
Yeah, for
He
sure.
gets a gold star. Tell him we gave him a gold star for that. Like
Suzanne,
Jim does with Ruthie too.
he gets more than a gold star. He gets like a whole crown. He's just the everything guy. So he's going to be helping deliver a lot of meals to Appalachian Bible College when we go there for the retreat. Okay, Suzanne, your turn.
Lane's parents it's tenuous, but they are, for the most part, independent and fairly healthy. Would we need to drop everything at the moment that they had an issue? Yes. Except for the heavy laden church responsibilities that we both have had, we could do that. Of course, he's fully retired, but he has had pretty much a full-time job doing some work for the church that has not, has been a need since we didn't have a pastor. So we hope to both be rid of some of the hard responsibilities for church in the next, couple of months. But yes, we could, have the need to drop everything we're doing to go take care of, a problem with his parents. So, that's always on the radar.
And then you also have grandkids that you spend time with too.
Yeah, we just saw 4 of them yesterday. That was a lot of fun. So they're only 40 minutes away. So that's pretty easy. And they want us there. So we're glad for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we just had a baby and she is so sweet. My youngest daughter, Kylie, she has wanted me there, not to a needy point. It's just kind of like, take her. How do I do this? Is this normal? Like, how long is she going to be grouchy? But I am still working on this book proposal with my literary agent. We're almost there and we are just refining it and getting it super strong and fleshed out down to the sections and certain passages and who's going to endorse the book. I mean, it's this whole big thing that I am so grateful to be a part of. I've also been working on the new website. You can see it at ruthiegray.com. It's very cute. Sarah has done a great job. I have to say, I have felt such freedom in the pivot that I took. This is my sweet spot. It always has been, is ministering to moms. I have gotten some really, really great feedback. A lot of it's things that people aren't talking about, like getting your validation from your kids instead of having confidence and how to actually do that. Like, how do you not let them offend you? Or how do you not offend them? Or how do you turn off those emotions that spark when they push your buttons?
And I have to say, too, that's been kind of hit home with me now on this side of the divorce now, because it's a whole different relationship with them. And, I've been learning even up to the divorce, how to manage your relationships with adult kids. And now that I'm divorced, it's like got another layer of it. It's really interesting, but it's still like that validation has become a bigger thing because now I don't have a husband to say like I'm a wife and that's part of my identity. So It's interesting, and I'm still in the kind of messy middle of it. But yeah, you're right. There's not a lot of people talking about that.
You know how they say to figure out your why, for why you want to do your business. Don't let your why be the thing that keeps you from doing what you were going to do in the first place for the why. I mean, it starts to be a vicious cycle, and you're like, I can't attend that sales meeting or that Zoom call or whatever because I have a grandkid coming over. But the whole reason for your why might be so that you can spend more time with your grandkids.
Yeah.
So anyway, the empty nest thing goes all different ways, and like Pat, you're in the empty nest years, but you're also newly divorced. And so there's so much, Ruthie, that you can minister to along those different avenues, how the emptiness works and how this whole parenting thing, you're mixing it up really, really well. And we're proud of you for pivoting.
I want to summarize 3 main takeaways from this conversation that you just heard with these empty nest entrepreneurs. First, communicate with your spouse and your family your scope of responsibilities and the time you need each week, like Kathy with her newsletter and Pat with her work boundaries. Oftentimes, we're assuming our people know our schedule, or we're afraid that they will take offense if we set those boundaries. But if these boundaries and these priorities are important to us and we know that we've prayed about them and brought them before the Lord, and we're carrying through the desires that He has planted in our hearts, then we have a responsibility to communicate exactly the time that we need to get these things done. Number 2, consider sharing your schedule with your husband and family and color code like Brenda and her husband did, especially if your husband is retired or works from home. Some of us are nearing the stage of husband retirement, and Jim and I have already been in talks about this. What will you do next? Because I don't call him the guy who does everything for nothing. This man, he wants to be busy from the moment his feet hit the floor in the morning. And you heard all the girls complimenting him on his help during our last retreat. And he plans to continue to come alongside me in this new book endeavor that I have in this new phase of my work. So it's important to have these conversations. And number 3, don't beat yourself up over the word balance. Pat's advice was so wise. There is really no such thing, and each empty nest mom's schedule looks different. We just need to make sure we're loving on our people well, but still making time for the things we need to do and the things we love to do. And in order to do that, we need to consistently bring our schedule to the throne each day. Pray over your list and hold it loosely. Thank you so much for listening today. And I felt like this conversation was such a good transition from what we've done over here for years to what I've prepared for you over on my new website at ruthiegray.com, including my brand new podcast just launched today called Sandwich Season Sanity. And yes, this is a little shameless plug for the new website. And the bridge is really our next steps retreat, because whether you're a creative entrepreneur or in marketing of some kind, you need women in your life stage to be able to share with and work out your life situations. So again, check out ruthiegray.com/retreat, or just hit the link in the show notes to see if you'd like to join us in September, the 18th through the 21st. As always, be sure to share your message your way in your own authentic voice.